You know the feeling, I think. I think we all know the feeling. You're standing in this massive windowless warehouse, and you're clutching that yellow bag that is somehow already full of things you didn't even know existed 10 minutes ago, like a set of 6 tea light holders or a special tool for slicing
The
avocados.
same as Marketplace.
Exactly. You're smelling cinnamon buns, maybe a faint whiff of Swedish meatballs, and you're holding a map that looks like it belongs to the Tokyo subway system. And then the grand finale, you're staring at a flat cardboard box that weighs more than a small car, and you're just wondering, how on earth am I going to get this into my hatchback?
It is the universal IKEA experience. I mean, it's practically a rite of passage for modern life.
It really is. But here's the question I want to start with today. If I asked you, or anyone listening right now, why IKEA is the biggest furniture retailer on the planet, what would you say? I think 99% of people would give the exact same answer. It's cheap.
Right. It's the price.
That's the secret, right?
That is the common assumption. They sell stuff cheap, so they sell a lot of it. But today, we're going to flip that idea completely on its head. We're looking at a really fascinating analysis by Sunbin Qi from the ASKT Furniture Industry blog, and the core argument here is, well, it's going to sound a bit counterintuitive.
Okay, lay it on us.
The argument is that price is not the cause of their success. Price is the outcome.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that. Price is the outcome. What does that mean exactly?
It means that if you want to understand this company, you can't just look at the price tag. You have to look at the machine that produces the price tag. The source argues IKEA doesn't operate like a normal retailer. It operates as a tightly integrated, well, they call it an operating system.
An operating system.
Yeah.
Like Windows or iOS, but for sofas.
In a way, yes. It's a system where product development, packaging, logistics, even the behavioral psychology of how you walk through the store, it's all engineered to reinforce each other. It's a machine designed to strip out waste so aggressively that the low price is just. It's the natural mathematical result.
I love that. It makes it sound less like a furniture store and more like a tech company. So, today on the deep dive, we are going to tear this operating system apart. We're going to look at the container math that revolutionized how stuff moves around the world. We're going to talk about the psychology of why we actually like building our own furniture.
Even when we complain about it constantly.
Exactly. And we are going to break down their democratic design formula, which explains why, despite everyone trying, nobody has been able to really copy them.
And we should mention, this isn't just history. The source touches on their FY24 reporting, showing how this system is actually adapting to things like inflation and supply chain issues right now.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very relevant to the current economic moment.
So let's start with the money, or rather, how they decide on the money. The source mentions a concept called price as a design constraint.
Yes. This is one of those things that sounds simple, but is actually revolutionary in practice. Think about how a traditional furniture company might design a chair.
Okay, so I assume they hire a designer. The designer sketches something beautiful, they pick the wood, maybe a nice velvet fabric. Then they send it to the factory and ask how much to make this. The factory says, it's $50. So the company says, great, we'll sell it for $100.
Exactly. Design, then cost, then price.
Yeah.
That is the standard cost plus model for IKEA.
Yeah.
Well, they do backward. They start with a price tag. They look at the market and say, we need a coffee table that sells for exactly 15 euros.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. That's the constraint.
So before they've even drawn a sketch, before they know if it's round or square, they know the price.
Correct. And that price tag dictates everything that follows. It's a hard limit for the designers, the engineers, the material sourcers. If the price is 15 euros, you can't use solid oak for the legs. It's mathematically impossible.
So it forces them to innovate?
It forces the entire system to align. If you can't use solid wood, what do you use? Well, maybe you use a hollow core structure, basically a honeycomb of recycled paper inside a wood veneer. It's strong, it's light, and it's cheap.
I've seen that. It feels solid, but if you sawed it in half, it looks like a beehive inside.
That's the one. That innovation only exists because the price tag forced it to exist. The source calls affordability an end-to-end metric. It involves design, packaging geometry, sourcing, all of it, working in unison.
Packaging geometry? That's a fancy way of saying how it fits in the box, isn't it?
It is, but it's so critical. The FY24 reporting mentioned in the source highlights this perfectly. We've all been living through high inflation, right?
For sure.
Costs for everything went up. But IKEA noted that improved cost developments, specifically in logistics and raw materials, were what allowed them to reduce prices.
So it wasn't just a sale. It wasn't a marketing team saying, hey, let's slash prices to clear out inventory.
No, it was the system calculating that costs went down, maybe shipping got cheaper, or they found a more efficient way to make that hollow leg so the price could go down to maintain the volume. It's structural deflation.
Which brings us to my favorite part of this analysis. The source calls it the war on air.
This is huge. And honestly, it's where the genius of the model really, really shines.
Right, because we all know the flat pack. I always assumed flat packing was for me, so I can jam the bookshelf into my trunk without renting a truck. It feels like a convenience.
And that is a benefit, absolutely.
Yeah.
It shifts the last mile delivery cost from them to you. But that's really just a happy accident for the consumer. The real reason for flat packing is something called container math.
Container math. Sounds
Yeah.
like a college course I definitely would have failed.
It's actually pretty straightforward. In global trade, you don't just pay for weight, you pay for volume. You pay for cubic meters or CBM. So if you ship a fully assembled sofa, what are you mostly shipping?
Air. There's air under the cushions, air between the legs, all that empty space.
Exactly. The source calls this shipping air. And shipping air is the absolute enemy of efficiency. If you are paying to move air across the Atlantic, you are just losing money. The source emphasizes that IKEA treats packaging engineering as part of product engineering. They are literally designing the product so it eliminates millimeters of air in the box.
Wait, can you give me an example? How deep does this really go?
Okay, well, take something simple like a coffee mug. A normal mug is cylindrical. If you stack cylindrical mugs, you have all that wasted space between them. IKEA might redesign the mug with a slight taper or a different handle shape, specifically so they nest tighter together.
So they're changing the shape of the mug just to fit more in a shipping container.
Yes. If shaving a millimeter off the handle means you can fit 2,000 mugs on a pallet instead of 1,500, that changes the entire equation. It means fewer pallets, which means you fit more in the container, which means you need fewer ships crossing the ocean.
And that drives the landed cost, the cost to get the item to the store way down.
Drastically.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just the shipping cost. The source points out that tighter packaging actually reduces damage rates.
Really? I would have thought squishing everything together makes it more likely to break.
It's the opposite. If you have a loose chair rattling around in a big box, it can break. If you have a flat pack where every piece is basically vacuum sealed against the next, it becomes a solid brick. Bricks don't break.
That makes total sense. And I imagine there's a sustainability angle here, too.
Oh, massive.
Yeah.
The FY24 sustainability report connects this directly. Tighter packaging means fewer emissions per product. You ship less air, you burn less fuel. It's this rare sweet spot where being ruthlessly cheap and being environmentally friendly align perfectly.
They aren't doing it just to save the planet, and they aren't doing it just to save money. This system demands both.
Precisely.
Okay, so they've engineered the box to perfection. They've engineered the product to fit the box. But the source argues they've also engineered, well, us, the customers.
Ah, yes, the psychology of the store.
The long, natural way. That's what they call the store layout internally, right?
It is.
To me, it feels like a maze designed to trap me until I buy a spatula I didn't know I needed. I walk in for a desk, and I come out with a desk, a rug, 3 plants, and a bag of frozen meatballs.
You're not entirely wrong about the trap part, but there is a very specific logic to it, and it's designed to help you. The force explains that the long, natural way is a guided one-way journey. Think about a regular department store. You walk in the doors, and what happens?
It's just open. I can go left to shoes, right to cosmetics, straight to menswear. I have to decide.
And that causes choice paralysis. You have to expend mental energy just navigating. In IKEA, the path is set. You just follow the arrows.
It's a passive. I just flow along the river.
Exactly. And because you're flowing along this preset path, they can curate exactly what you see. They show you complete livable solutions, these vignettes. They don't just show you a desk standing alone in an aisle. They show you the desk with the matching lamp and the chair and the rug and the plant.
And that leads to what the source calls cross-category attachment.
Right. You came for the desk. But you see the whole setup and think, wow, that lamp makes the desk look great. The desk looks lonely without the lamp. Suddenly you're buying the lamp too. The journey makes the trip feel productive, not just transactional. You're buying a slice of a lifestyle.
But then comes the hard part. You get home, you open the box, it's you, the Allen key, and a diagram that looks like ancient hieroglyphics, and yet the source says this is actually a good thing for the brand.
This is the famous IKEA effect.
Sounds like a medical condition. Doctor, I've got a bad case of the IKEA effect.
It's actually a fascinating behavioral psychology phenomenon. The premise is simple but profound. People value products more when they have contributed effort to creating them.
So because I sweated and cursed and turned that wrench 40 times, I love the bookshelf more?
Yes, it creates emotional ownership. If you buy a pre-assembled table, it's just a table, a commodity. If you build it, it's your creation. You look at it and you feel a sense of competence. But, and this is a very big but, this only works if you succeed.
Right. If I fail and the table collapses or I have 3 screws left over and I don't know where they go, I don't feel a lot of love.
Exactly. You feel incompetent and you transfer that anger to the brand. That is why the instructions, the tolerances, all of it. It's so critical. The assembly experience has to be engineered so that you feel challenged, but ultimately successful. It's a very fine line.
It's like a video game level. Hard enough to be satisfying, but easy enough that you can beat it.
That's a perfect analogy. When it works, self-assembly isn't just a cost-cutting measure. It's a brand bonding exercise.
Yeah.
You're investing your labor into their product, and you value it more because of it.
That is wild. We are essentially working for them, doing the final assembly, and we thank them for it.
It's brilliant.
Okay, so we have price as a constraint, the war on air logistics, the psychological buy-in. But surely other companies can do this. Why doesn't everyone just copy the maze and the flat pack?
The source argues that copying the tactical stuff, the blue bag, the meatballs, that's easy. But copying the democratic design framework is incredibly hard.
Democratic design, this is their 5-point star, right?
Correct. The 5 dimensions are function, form, quality, sustainability, and low price.
And the catches.
The catch is you have to hit all 5 simultaneously. Most competitors pick 2, maybe 3. You can make a chair that's beautiful and high quality form and quality, but it'll be expensive. Or you can make a chair that's cheap and functional, but it's probably going to be ugly and unsustainable.
IKEA tries to land right in the center of that pentagon.
And doing that requires a kind of cross-functional alignment that most companies just don't have. You can't have a sustainability department and a pricing department working in silos. They have to be in the same room, solving the same equation.
And part of that involves the suppliers, the people actually making this stuff. The source draws a distinction here between spot vendors and integrated partners.
This is crucial. A lot of retailers treat suppliers as, well, as spot vendors.
Yeah.
I need 10,000 chairs. Who has the lowest bid today?
And next year, they might go to someone else if they're 5 cents cheaper.
Exactly. It's transactional. IKEA offers these long planning horizons and massive volume. They say, we will be with you for 5 years. We're going to buy millions of units. In exchange, the supplier has to adhere to these strict standards, but they also get the security to invest in things like automation.
So the supplier can go to the bank and say, I have a contract with IKEA, and get a loan to buy $1 million robot arm.
Precisely. And that robot arm leads to consistency. The source mentions that reliability often beats the lowest bid. If you have automated welding, for example, you reduce the risk of bad batches.
Variability is the enemy.
It is. In a system this big, if 1% of your chairs have wobbly legs, that's thousands of angry customers. Reliability allows them to scale.
Speaking of scale, that's a perfect segue into how they manage this whole empire, because they are in over 60 markets now.
And that is where standardized scalability comes in. It operates as a franchise system.
Wait, really? Like a McDonald's?
Similar concept.
Yeah.
Inner IKEA Systems owns the concept and the intellectual property. Different franchise groups operate the stores in different countries, but the governance is incredibly strict. You can't just decide to paint your IKEA store purple or change the meatball recipe because you feel like it.
The concept has to be repeatable.
The source notes, scale lowers unit cost only when the concept is repeatable. If every market needed a totally different product range, the efficiency would just vanish. The operating system has to be universal.
But the world is changing. The source talks about the future. We have e-commerce, people living in smaller city apartments, supply chain volatility. Is the big blue box going to survive? Who wants to drive to the suburbs on a Saturday anymore?
It's a valid question. But the source is optimistic. And the reason goes back to that idea of the operating system. Because their advantage is structural, not tactical, they can adapt.
How so?
Well, look at the challenges. Urban living. They're already designing modular furniture for small spaces. That's their heritage. Supply chain volatility. Their war on air and local sourcing help mitigate shipping costs better than anyone else.
And what about e-commerce? Shipping furniture is notoriously expensive.
It is, if you ship air. But remember, IKEA doesn't ship air. Their flat pack model makes them uniquely suited for e-commerce logistics compared to a company selling pre-assembled sofas. The source argues that IKEA can change the format, maybe smaller city stores, more online sales, but the underlying engine, the logic, remains the same.
So the store might look different in 10 years. Maybe it's a small showroom in the city center, but the math behind the meatball remains.
Essentially, they are positioned to survive because they aren't just selling furniture. They are selling a system for living that just happens to be incredibly efficient to distribute.
So, to wrap this all up, what are we really looking at here? We started by saying it's not just about being cheap.
No, it's about a total alignment of incentives. From the drawing board where they set the price tag first, to the factory where they shave millimeters off the packaging, to the store where they guide your feet, to your living room where you build the product yourself.
It's a machine, a logistics and behavioral psychology machine that just happens to sell Billy bookcases.
That is the perfect summary. The secret sauce is that combination. Eliminate waste, get psychological buy-in from the customer, and maintain rigid design discipline. That's why it's so hard to copy. You can copy the table, but you can't easily copy the system that made the table possible.
It really makes you look at that flat pack box differently. It's not just cardboard. It's a masterclass in efficiency.
It is.
Here's a thought to leave you with. We talked about the IKEA effect, that we value things more when we work for them. It works for furniture. But where else in our lives are we paying for the privilege of doing the work ourselves and enjoying it more because of that?
That's a great question.
Are we seeing the IKEA effect in self-checkout? Or in those meal kit delivery services where you pay premium prices to chop your own vegetables?
Or even in how we curate our own entertainment playlists versus just listening to the radio. We want to be the DJs.
Exactly. Maybe we all just want to be the builders of our own little worlds, one Allen key turn at a time. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Thank you. Keep building.